Hello. Nakadi Enyu, how are you doing? Tete Rasta. Welcome to the show. I don't know if anybody's going to join me today. It's a rather difficult subject, I know. I'm just waiting to see if anybody's going to be brave enough to join in. And Tete Rasta, it's been quite a while. I was drawn to today's topic. I've been seeing it on my Facebook feed, sort of coming and going, and I was thinking, should I, comment, or should I say anything, or just leave it be? And as I've kind of been watching how the news has been developing on Facebook, I started thinking about the moral and ethical issues of me not actually saying something about the issue that I'm going to be talking to you today about. Makadi, thank you. I can see that you're joining in. If you can just confirm that you can hear me okay, because I'm going to go into the issues. I was moved by the story of this young lady who has committed suicide, allegedly committed suicide in Cyprus, where she's been studying at university. Hello, Lillian. How are you, my dear? Thank you for the shout out. Kisses to you as well. So I decided to entitle today's subject Student Suicide in Cyprus. Let us discuss. And that's purely what it is, and lessons learned. I guess in every situation, it's always proper and right to actually approach this in a very respectful way, because somebody's loved one is no longer there for them. This young lady, I'll go into the article that's in the papers, is somebody's child, and she's probably somebody's sister. She's probably muzukuru wa somebody anotoonana tete vakeo, who will no longer be able to meet this young lady. So this is a broadcast just borrowing from this experience and the loss of life to look at what are the issues around suicide. As you know, a lot of you, I'm a healthcare professional, and I was also moved to talk about this because it's the area that I specialized in. For a great many years here in the United Kingdom, I've been working with women in particular, working on suicide prevention, suicide management, and actually developing services, looking at efficacy of care, dealing with people who get to that point of distress. So we're going to use this young lady's experience to help each other to understand this phenomenon. I want to just define what is suicide to start with. I can see that you're all with me now. And then I want to look at how does someone get to the point of feeling that my life is no longer worth living. Okay, some of you will have been there yourself, so don't be ashamed and don't be embarrassed. And then we're going to be looking at how can you start understanding what's happening for an individual if they are getting those feelings and sense of my life is no longer worth living. I'm going to draw on a particular therapeutic model, which is what we used. We studied this in the United States of America. I'm just going to borrow components of this, but I'll put the links on this page so that you'll be able to go and read up a little bit more on it. It's called dialectical behavioral therapy. I'll just draw the key elements from there, and then I'll be looking at Zimbabweans in particular. What is our response to suicide? How vulnerable are we? And what are the things that put us out there? And then what can you do as an individual to be more relevant, to kind of change the discourse? Because, people's lives change, and anybody can end up getting to a point where they feel that enough is enough. I really can't face another day. So welcome to the program. I can see you guys there. Jim, hi there. How are you doing, my dear brother? I'm sure you've enjoyed your day, and I hope it's been blessed as well. Mandy, Lillian, Graham, nice of you to be watching. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. In this day and age, everybody is so busy. Kuda, I can see you there. Anzikurova, Anziko Naitete. As you know, we were dealing with some issues in my own family where we had the loss, and I just want to thank you so much, guys, for your support. This is not the right platform, but I am so grateful for your love and care and concern. Anzina Mandi, hey Grace, a very sad incident indeed. What drives young children to such desperation, worthy of discussion. As a mother of 2 young women, my heart just broke. And that's the right spirit there, Mandy, that we are not making a spectacle of this young lady. If any of us end up making a spectacle of the loss of life, then we are indeed failures, and we don't deserve this space. So this space is to honor this young lady and to try and understand from her experience, how does someone get to the point of feeling like my life is not worth living? Ari Musango being in Cyprus when her, she's a Southern African Zimbabwean. Norman, I see you. And Tete Makadi, where have you got? I'm right here in Anchimbo, Ronga Musha, and trying to sort things out. And, Nenyasha, we are where we should be. So thank you so much. Nice of you to join and to ask. And Sam says sorry, you're lost, dear. She's not somebody that I know, actually. She's just a young person that I've seen the thing in the paper. So let's get to it. Please continue to put questions and comments. So suicide, let's get to this point. Suicide is the action of killing oneself intentionally. So you actually deliberately make up your mind that I am going to expire, and it's often a calculated action. Some people contemplate suicide and they say it and they say I'm going to do it, but they never actually end their own lives. And then there are some people who are persistently crying wolf. But sometimes those individuals will end up actually completing a suicide, whether by mistake. Sometimes it can be in the context of drugs or alcohol, or sometimes it can be impulsive. They may go too far. So that is the definition. What does the World Health Organization say about suicide? As you know, Tudaguvaka Foundation Yedu, so that when we get to that point, we are really getting into the story and really appreciating what lessons we can learn from this. And I'm sure some of you will have lost loved ones through this. It's quite a violent act, actually, when somebody takes their own life. But what drives somebody to reach that point? So hear this. This is the report, the fact sheet from the World Health Organization, is available online. Over 800,000 people die due to suicide every year. 800,000, you guys, that's a phenomenal figure. And for every suicide, there are many more people who attempt suicide every year, but they don't complete. A prior suicide attempt is a single most important risk factor for suicide in the general population. So you know that I work with the NHS on the phone. Often we have people phoning and saying, I feel like ending my own life. What we're checking for is the intent. What is the person saying? Are they likely to do it? Do they have the means to do it? And then that determines how we respond. So let's get to the paper and learn about this young lady. I've been looking at different titles, and I get disappointed with my newspapers. They like to sensationalize, and some of their headlines are very, very unhelpful. But I'm going to work here with the one the Herald. I think they were a little bit better toned of the papers, if I can just find it. All right then. So what do they tell us about this situation? They say that a Zimbabwean student studying at Cyprus International University allegedly committed suicide in her apartment on Saturday after her breakup with a Nigerian boyfriend. And this was due to the context of a pregnancy being there. And then she divulged to the partner that this was the situation, and she faced rejection. And so the trigger was the rejection. I don't know this young lady, the deceased. I don't know what kind of a person she was or personality that she was. But obviously she must have been in so much distress for her to be with child, for her to be so far away from home, and perhaps not even, having the kind of support networks that sometimes people will experience when they are in their country of origin. So, if she, from the reports, the method that she used was quite a violent method, and it's not a usual one for women, actually. Men tend to be more more violent with their acts of ending their own lives. So I'm so sorry for the loss of this young lady. Her name is Elizabeth Choto, and we just want to send out condolences to the family. And I don't like to take liberties, but sometimes when you have a real situation, it brings the issues home. So a few months ago, when I started doing the Tete Rasta series, I talked to you about antecedents, behaviors, and consequence. This is a model that's used in cognitive behavioral therapy, where you look at what was happening before the incident. Chi chakakonzeresa kuti zvinhu zvispiraled to that extent. So we know that this young lady was pregnant. We don't know how far she had gone. And we also know that she had a boyfriend, and that she told him that this was the situation, that she's with child, and then things fell apart and he rejected her. So you can imagine how much stress and pressure there is. And the other thing to consider is that she's in a foreign land. Somebody's looking after her. She may be on scholarship, or her parents were financing her, or her family. We don't know. But it's all those things that would have played on her mind as to what do I do next. And often people feel a sense of shame. People feel a sense of humiliation, and there are stereotypes. People will immediately think this person is loose. But I want to speak to the men on this platform and those who are going to be watching this program. When a woman is pregnant, she is not pregnant. You are both pregnant because you met makasangana and you engaged in an intimacy that has resulted with child. There should never be a situation where a man abdicates responsibility like he was not there and then leaves somebody in that way. So that was really very, very cruel. And, I don't know what the circumstances are, but whenever there's a situation like that, there's always room for compassion. So, if ever you are in a situation, if you are interfacing with somebody who may find themselves in this situation, or you are counseling a young man whose girlfriend or partner has become pregnant and they were not ready for the situation, you must counsel with compassion, because it's often the reaction of those that matter most to the individual that will tip the person over the edge and or support them. And Farai Tete, to have received a birthday message from you was special last night. Thank you. You're welcome, my dear. I value my Facebook friends so much. And this is the thing, that this young person was loved. She was, I think, 27 years of age. And some people have been saying, oh, a 27-year-old should know better. You know what? I don't know if anybody is qualified to judge. Let ye whose own situation is clean be the first to throw a stone. People cope in different ways or don't cope. So it's always good to acknowledge that. You find some people who even commit suicide over something that the next person will say, it's a non-issue. You know what I mean? But to be judgmental is the key thing that does tip people over the edge. So be kind. If you have nothing to add value to say, zip it. It's better to be quiet and not judge and push people unnecessarily. And Najim, it's a very unfortunate incident for the young lady to have committed suicide. My condolences to the Choto family. I really feel sorry, but this should have been avoided, especially in this day and age. Where contraceptive methods are in abundance. I think you have a point there, and it's about access and knowing where to access resources, perhaps. And there is always the option that the person has their baby. I mean, anozonzimvana, but unemwana wako. A life is, a child or pregnancy, it's a gift, and it should not be viewed as the end of the world. And this is where I'm going to touch on Mazimba. Let us not push people, especially if are diaspora or who are isolated, to feel that somebody is going to react like this, therefore I am going to kill myself. Would you rather have mwana nemuzukuru, which being the child if the pregnancy had gone, and life, or now you have a situation where somebody feels that they're no longer worth living, their life is no longer worth living. So as a community and as a society, we also are responsible for perception and how people manage the thought processes of ndichararama sei, vanhu vachandi accepta here, will I ever get over this and meet somebody? You know what I mean? I think life matters more than things. Hanzina Sam, what a sad story. My heart goes out to the family at this most difficult time. The papers are always horrible during difficult times. I remember a couple of years ago when Frank Bruno suffered. Oh gosh, I think I've lost this one. I'm trying to open this and extend, but it's doing its own thing. So I'm so sorry, Sam. But I'm aware of Frank Bruno. He suffered a mental illness, depression, and I think he had a bipolar element to it, where his mood was very, very labile. And the media went to town, and his life has never been the same again. And I remember we invited him when we were opening one hospital in central London to be the guest of honor, and he delayed coming out of the car to come and be the officiating guest because of the stereotypes and because of the shame. But when he did turn up, he was just, he's just one of the nicest people ever. And when people suffer setbacks, it affects their health in terms of their mental health and mental well-being. So it's ever so important to be supportive as much as you can be, and not to be judgmental, and to be an agent of support rather than putting other people down or closing down their options. Anzina Dennis, very sorry, my condolences to the family and Zimbabwe at large. And Dennis, you touch on the real issue there, because while this thing is passing around in the papers, it's a Zimbabwean student, it's his Nigerian boyfriend. And so you have this divisive way of reporting news, whereas there are so many people that do end their lives on a daily basis. 800,000 we've seen there. But you never have other countries denigrating the brand of their own nation. Where's our patriotism? Let us report the news, but let us preserve our brand. Zimbabweans, I think our papers can do better, and I think that we as individuals can also put pressures to expect a better repertoire, so that patinenge tichifamba kunzoku kana kuti vana venyu they're in universities, they're not going to have to walk with their heads hung down because they're in shame because of the references to a Zimbabwean committed suicide because of this. It's a young lady. Where's our humanity? Anzina Lester, suicide in age or experience. You're absolutely right. And this is the thing that sometimes when your resolve is not so strong, it may be that you feel isolated, or someone feels that they're not able to talk to somebody or share with somebody, and therefore they feel desperate, and then they act on those things. So you have the antecedent. What is it that is going to trigger somebody to feel? Usually people feel stress, and then they feel distress, and then they feel depression, and then from then onwards, if they don't get help, it's a nose down right up until they feel that their life is not worth living. And some people will have fleeting thoughts of suicide, especially a lot of people that are in diaspora. Vamwe vaivakadzimba kuZimbabwe vachitumira mari vachishanda all the hours that God sent, only for people to then tell them kuti hakuna imba kuZimbabwe uko, and then they see the rubble, maybe the ground is just still on foundation level. After all those years of hard work, some people became suicidal. You know what I mean? It doesn't take very much for a trigger to trip somebody over. So you've got the antecedent. What is it that happens before? Then the behavior. What is it that you start seeing? And then the consequences. And the worst case scenario is actually a completed suicide. So, we're drawing on the experience of this young lady. And I just want to acknowledge somebody who's my friend. And he's probably the person who started this off, because I went to my friend's page wall. It was in the feed. My friend called Gift. And Gift, the way that you put that story out on your page, it got me to be thinking about the other aspect of, we've got the end result, which is that somebody's passed away. But what about the family? What about the brother? What about the sisters? What about the mom? What about the sister? What about the clan? Mushawavo wese. You know what I mean? And often when there's been a suicide, everybody then wears a cloak of shame because mayana ningi. You know what I mean? So we want to get over ourselves and have a paradigm shift. We are responsible for each other. We are each other's keepers. I am my sister's keeper and my brother's keeper. Let's have that outlook. If somebody doesn't seem to be at their usual self or something is wrong, check on them. Have a conversation with them. I went to another, he's not my friend, but I follow him on Facebook, and he had that article, and what he was basically saying was that this young lady had reached out to him just before this incident, and she kind of said hi. It was just a very small message, and he thought I'll speak to her in a few days' time. And now his regret was, I wish I had known, because she sounded like she needed somebody. So if you ever have somebody just reach out to you from the blue and you're thinking, it's always a good thing to check on them. Hi, I got your message. How are you doing? So tight, and somebody just needs somebody to talk to. And maybe you are the light. You saw my profile picture today. My cover page, it's got this massive light. We are all a light to somebody else. And this is why Facebook is such a gift to us all, because I've got people that are in Zimbabwe that are shining a light on me via cyberspace. I'm shining a light on other people. You guys, you're joining in, you're shining your light on me. We're having this conversation. You just don't know and don't realize how important you are to the next person. Kajinji, we don't say thank you. Kajinji, we don't acknowledge each other, but we are each other's light. And when you put a light against something, the darkness dissipates. So be relevant. You know what I mean? Let us move away from always being the community which celebrates the downfall of another person. Patricia, this young lady, Elizabeth, is no longer there. But his situation could happen to the next person. It could happen to another person's child. You know what I mean? And there are some people who are living with a vacuum because somebody they cared about ended their life in that way. Just to check on the comments here, Katie says, Tete, hi. Thank you so much, Katie. How are you doing? I know kutuku inbox. Thank you for shining your light in my life. I really appreciate it. Lillian says, it's such a tragic end to a young life. We should also teach these young girls that getting pregnant is not the end of the world. And most importantly, ending one's life because a man is not I'm really having troubles extending the messages. Okay, I've got yours. We should really we should also teach these young girls that getting pregnant is not the end of the world, and most importantly, ending one's life because a man is not worth it. I suppose the guilt of facing the parents with an unwanted pregnancy was too overwhelming. You will appreciate that most parents really go out of their way to send these girls abroad. You're absolutely right. I think as parents, we are all making sacrifices to send sons abroad, to send daughters abroad, because you also have the other flip side, my love, where, you know, one of my brothers sent his son abroad, and if he then engaged in a relationship and they ended up being a pregnancy, and his response was like this Nigerian brother, his actions could tip another young life over. So, you know, it's about say, how can we educate, as you're saying, Lillian, vana vedu, even vanu vakuru as we are, kuti, you know, you will face challenges. Challenges are there to build you up, and you will never break. Reach out to somebody so that they don't have to feel that a life is not important. You know, I did the maths a few years ago, Kuti, from childbirth until Ngana 18, how much do we spend as parents to raise a child? It's well worth over $100,000 US dollars. I am not talking about 100,000 bond notes, US dollars. And it's even more for those people who then, you know, send their kids abroad to these expensive universities and so on. So, you know, this is such a sad occasion for that family. But within that, let us appreciate that this young life did not have the problem solving mechanisms available to her, that she accelerated her conduct and ended up ending her own life. But does that mean that she is less valuable than the next person? Does that mean that I'm better than her? What qualifies me to be talking about her to you? I'm not overqualified to be speaking about this situation, but I know that I have been in situations where we've saved lives, we've helped to rebuild lives, and I know the things that help. So I'm going to go into the things that help, and then take some more of your comments. So what are the things that happen when people commit suicide? And this will tie in very nicely with what can you do, how can you be relevant. So methods of suicide are many. The most common one is overdosing, taking poisons, even hanging. Some people throw themselves off bridges. Some people, they drown themselves. Some people take drugs and overdose. You've seen these stars doing all manner of things, and you think, happiness comes from things that are very different from one person to the next person. Some people in Zimbabwe will be saying, but muskana uyu anga ari ku university, anga atori ku diaspora kochi. You can't point and say zvazodai so, or people respond differently. So, let's be compassionate, let's be loving, let's be caring, and especially for those that are having to deal with the loss, let us reach out to them in a way that is respectful. If there's any way that the papers can try and be more humane to these tragedies, I think it will be very, very helpful. So there are challenges to do when we look at suicide, things like stigma and taboo. How do people respond even after someone has tried to end their own lives? How do people respond beyond a suicide? How do people interact? Do you talk about it? Do you say anything? Or do you just pretend like apana iripo? So going to dialectical behavioral therapy now, very quickly, we look at four aspects. Interpersonal effectiveness. Are you communicating very well? Communicate. Are you distressed? Are you sad? Do you need help? Do you need support? Do you just need someone to sit with you and just be there? Interpersonal effectiveness is about you, the individual, reaching out, or other people reaching into you. So never underestimate how powerful you can be in the life of another and in the actions or activities of preserving life. You look at distress, tolerance. Distress is very easy to see. Kana munhu ari upset or distressed, or they are absent-minded, or they are not themselves. Those are some of the things that you start picking up with, right in a munhu. What do you do about it? The so what has always got to be answered. You can have the conversation. Grace, are you okay? You know what I mean? Because I'm one of those people who comes out and says, oh, I need help. There are some people who don't have that gift, and you would have to just be watching them, commenting, or just being there until they're ready to disclose. A lot of people will say, oh, but beyond that, are they so unmanageable? Sometimes it's important to just ask the question, Saka, things are tough. What are you thinking? Because then you have emotion regulation. Emotion regulation is the element where you start saying, hey, munu yari depressed, munu yari distressed, munu yari, impulsive. How do you support that individual so that those emotions that they are feeling that are usually an oppressor down are less? You can even have a coffee with someone. One of my Facebook friends was saying, they were in a different town up north, saying, I'm going to surprise somebody. Surprise them, visit them, buy them something nice, flowers, drinks, have a meal. It's those little things that take people out of isolation and allows them to interact. We are human beings, we are social beings, and we thrive on each other's light. We thrive on engagement and interaction. And then you have, what's the last one? Interpersonal effectiveness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, And oh my gosh, I've forgotten the last one. It's gonna come to me. Just give me a few seconds. It's gonna come to me. So anyway, these are the issues that we think about when we are looking at suicide. And it's so easy to come to anybody. I go oh, I'm here. It just comes, and people have to deal with whatever is going on. Okay. And then the greater part of it is supporting individuals. So pama consequences are if somebody's ever tried to end their own life, it's really important to let bygones be bygones and let them move on with their lives, okay? So that they can have a sense of achievement, have a sense of rebuilding and moving forward. Even sometimes when people experience bereavements, they may end up thinking, what is the point of me continuing with my life? Sometimes people might suffer financial losses. Sometimes people might lose their jobs. And so it's different for different people. But the important thing is that in humanity, as human beings, life is more important than things. And I hope to cover Jakati one day. Let me just check and see some of the comments that have been put on here. And Zina Lester, Zimbas tend to celebrate other people's demise. But anyways, in this case, this lady must have been treated like a queen, Nemunaija, just such that when they broke up, she couldn't take the pressure. Okay, I've kind of lost your comment there. Let me see if I can try and open it up. So that she couldn't take the pressure of other Zimbos. Just my assumption. I thought they say Nyadzi Zinokunda Rufu. You know what? This is the thing. How do you come back from a breakup? And some of you will be thinking, this is such a silly topic. Why is Tete Rasta talking about this? I'm talking about this because zvinogona kuuya kwamuri, or zvinogona kuuya kune mumwe munhu waunoziva, or it can come to you in later life. There's a high incidence of people in their later lives feeling that their lives are not worth living because people are living longer now. And some of you people, you don't contact your families, you don't provide for them. One destitute. You know what I mean? So, Kanamuna are destitute. They have no means of moving on with their lives. So, in a way, you can also contribute. So, let's at that point that you're making, I don't know whether she was larger than life, but I know that there's a lot of tension where people are dating interracially. And yes, Nigeria have got a reputation. They've got a reputation for treating their ladies well. Okay, so you got the mindfulness. The mindfulness is the last bit, which looks at the emotional mind. So emotional mind is where we're shooting from emotions, and people are happy or they're sad or they're depressed or distressed. So we all have three spheres. We've got the emotional mind. We've got the rational mind, which is the point where somebody will be saying, ndatuone pamiri and ndishaita mwana wangu. Ndinogona kuzviita izvi, and yes, ndichave mvana, but I'll have my child with me and I'll have my life. Ndapedza ndogona kutumira mwana kuZimbabwe, ndopedza degree rangu. Somebody can be thinking like that, but kana uri emotional mind, you can't access your rational mind, and and that's why it's very important for you not to vex or distress munhu atori pashinyas kare. If somebody is having a really hard time, don't be unhelpful and say things that are going to keep them deeper into the emotional mind. Then in the middle of that, you've got the reasonable mind, where you are now feeling the emotions, weighing up the rational stuff, and actually making a plan. You know what? I'm going to do this, and I'll tell my parents or I'll tell my family. And, if the response is good on that side, it helps. Sometimes people have to just write off negativity and say, you know what, I'm so sorry I disappointed you. I'm so sorry that you don't approve. But ndo tambika. People who are mvana who will give you 1 or 2 lessons about jambanja yekungoti, you know what, my life is important. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my child and I'm going to go ahead with it. And that's why, we had that occasion where we had our young brother who was telling off Mvana, or you are the scum and so on. Nobody ever elects to be in these situations. I'm not saying to have premarital sex is necessarily a good thing. I'm not condoning it, but let's be real. Once the situation is there, ndokunobva taboos, nema stereotypes, nema judgment, and that can really push someone over to the edge to say, well, I'm going to end my own life. Aunt Nandaba, welcome. And we had one in Germany, now another one within such a short time. Zimbabweans are stupid, too competitive, and don't want to accept problems when they think they have been there. Stop it, folks. A degree. Let me just open this up. A degree is not all about life. Some really strong words from Daba. And Daba is a sharpshooter, so I don't expect any less from him. I think this is the point also, that an education is an education. You can defer your studies, okay? This is lesson learned. If ever you find yourself in this situation and you think, I'm going to go through and have this child, you can defer. Have your baby and then come back to your studies and finish. It ought not to be fait accompli. And this competitiveness as well is where people now will be saying things that are very unhelpful. Some of the threads that are below the newspaper articles are just shocking, absolutely shocking. Unotoshaya kuti mazimba here vanhu vakabva munzvimbo here ine vanhu inorayirwa here. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be moralistic about this. I don't want to appear holier than thou. But I think that Ndaba makes a good point there, that life is more important than anything else that you can ever behold with your eyes. Even Marichaiyo, no parent should push their child away because pane pamir. And or kutipane mukwasha mutorwa, somebody, a son-in-law from another town or village. And fathers, Nemadzi Sekuru, you play a very critical role in all of this. You want to be checking up on your fertile sons, because they are very busy. Diaspora, where there is no policing, they are very busy, sowing their oats. And in those are sowing their oats, which is being, sexually active and or in relationships with people that they don't intend to marry. I'm not sure what this young man had promised this young lady, but it is a very sad event. So if somebody was to be with someone who's very distressed, you're going to be checking, are they very emotional? So Munari emotional just needs time to calm down. Bring it to their attention. Shah, you are very emotional. Let's go for a walk. Let's have a cup of tea. And then start reasoning with them, the reasonable mind. So if this guy says no to you, what's the worst thing that can happen? Who in your family can you talk to? Has this young man introduced you to his sisters? You know what I mean? So that you start reasoning with this person. Reason with them. And then make a plan, problem solve, and support them. And if ever you find that somebody's actually got a plan of suicide, Pane knows the suicide watch. These people need to be observed. Otherwise, it can become, dire, like what's happened here. So in DBT, we talk about emotion regulation, interpersonal effectiveness, distress tolerance, and mindfulness. But it's not much deeper. And when I was working in hospitals, we had a program of 18 months. And would have someone admitted and actually work with them until their life is sorted and they're ready to face the world again. And so there are other forms of counseling that are available. There are also, in our culture, Tine, our community, Anateta, Anasekuru, Shamwari, Madzisawira, get them involved to actually help other people. So I hope that's been helpful. Amma, thank you for joining. Martina, Daba, thank you so much for your contribution. And Vincent as well. I really appreciate it. Mujare Mary, I really appreciate your presence here. Sakandio, guys, that's what I was thinking about today. I wasn't really going to talk about this because, in a way, you're kind of walking a tightrope because you want to be sensitive to those who have lost someone and to the departed. But there's also a lesson. Like Ndaba was saying, it happened in Germany. If Zimbabweans start associating kupreswa or having a hard time with ending their own life, it can become a trend. You know what I mean? And that's what we don't want to promote. So let's share this video if you wish. It might help somebody. I'm going to put some links in here that will help people to look at some of this stuff a little bit more. But I just thought I would spend a little bit of time and share with you, because in Dokwa Eveku office, I don't do this anymore because it's pretty stressful and it's pretty grim. So this young lady, Elizabeth Choto, was only 27, committed suicide by hanging herself in her apartment in Cyprus, such a long way away from home. My thoughts are with her departed soul and with her family. And you know, I hope I've not breached a social etiquette by bringing this story into this discussion. It was out of respect, and also looking at how we can try and become better as Zimbabweans and as a community as well. So I think this also, I just wanted to finish off by looking at the issue here, World Health Organization. What they said is that suicide is one of the priority conditions to the World Health Organization Mental Health Gap Action Program, which was launched in 2008. And they're looking at evidence-based ways to help reduce and minimize suicide in countries by 10% by 2020. So I don't know how they will measure that, but a fatality is a fatality. We've talked about what is suicide, how does someone get to that point, the antecedents, behaviors, consequences, the ABCs. We've looked at dialectical behavioral therapy. We've looked at mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and then we've explored kuti mazimba. What can we do? How can we become relevant, and how can we be better, so that artists kungo kandirana matombo and judging, so that we can be each other's keeper. Maita Basa, thank you for joining me this afternoon. Or this evening now. I don't want to take too much of your time. You take care, and look out for other people. We are one global village, and we are facing difficult times even in Zimbabwe with the monetary situation. People are also in debt in different ways because mara is kufamba. The incidences of suicide, if people are not coping, can also be magnified. So let's not just be thinking, oh, this young lady. It can be generalized within the general community and diaspora, and so on. Never think that your life is not worth living. Even Zimbabwe, it's better to urarame kumusha kwako. It's not the end of the world. And vamwe, don't laugh at other people when their plans don't go well, because mangwana, it could be you. Thank you so much. Have a decent evening. Salute.